welcome to LBC Irregulars, a Sherlock Holmes podcast radio episode brought to you by the LONGBOX CRUSADE. This is episode 9 of the radio series, The New Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, The Purloined Ruby, Season 5, Episode 81, May 7th, 1945, featuring Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce. I want to give a thanks to the Arthur Conan Doyle Encyclopedia website. They keep me straight on all these numberings of seasons and whatnot. Now, after we listen to the show, my guests and I will discuss our thoughts on it. We invite you to be part of that conversation. You can leave us a voicemail with your thoughts at 707-532-5269. That's 707-532-LBOX. Or you can comment on the show at LONGBOX CRUSADE, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Or you go old school and contact us with email, contact@longboxcrusade.com. Your comments might just get played on a future episode. Now it's time for the show. Let us dim the lights and travel back in our minds to a London of the past, through the chilled and foggy streets of London to 221B Baker Street.
This episode from the life of Sherlock Holmes will be transmitted to our men and women overseas by shortwave and through the worldwide facilities of the Armed Forces Radio Service. Pet-Free Wine brings you Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce in the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes. The Petrie family, the family that took time to bring you good wine, invite you to listen to Dr. Watson tell about another exciting adventure he shared with his old friend, that master detective Sherlock Holmes. I suppose your dinner is well over by now, so now's the perfect time to get out a bottle of that swell Petrie California port. You know, Petrie port is just made for a time like this, after dinner when you're just taking things easy. If you've ever tasted Petrie port, you know what I mean. It's a hearty, full-bodied wine with a deep red color and a flavor that's just about out of this world. I think that if you had only one wine to choose and the whole world to choose from, chances are you'd pick port. Petrie port. That's how good I think it is. That's saying plenty, I know, but I think Petrie port will easily live up to all I say about it. Try it and see, and share it with your friends. You can serve Petrie port proudly because the name Petrie is the proudest name in the history of American wine. And now let's visit our old friend, Dr. Watson.
I'm up here on the patio, Mr. Foreman. Come on out and join me.
Admiring the sunset, eh, Doctor?
Yes, my boy. It's a particularly beautiful one.
Where are the puppies this evening?
Asleep on a favorite tweed coat of mine. It's just come back from the cleaning.
And you hadn't the heart to move them, I suppose.
No, I hadn't. Little fellows looked so comfortable. In fact, I sometimes wonder if you can come here to listen to a dissertation on the behavior of dogs.
Well, it is getting near story time, Doctor.
Yes, of course it is. Well, just let me get my pipe properly lighted. That's it. The story I'm going to tell you tonight began in 1909. I received a telegram from my old friend telling me that he was leaving his Sussex bee farm and coming to London for a few days. I hadn't seen the great man for several months, so naturally I went to Victoria Station to meet him. As the train drew to a stop, the door of a first-class carriage swung open and Sherlock Holmes, hand outstretched, jumped down onto the platform to greet me.
Watson, my dear fellow, how are you?
Oh, Holmes, my dear fellow, it's good to see you again. I've missed you.
And are you, old chap?
Carry a bag, sir?
Yes, Porter, and get a hansom cab, will you?
Right, John.
I wish I'd got a spare room for you.
Don't worry, Watson. I shall be very comfortable at the Diogenes Club. By the way, I trust you're free this evening.
Yes, naturally. What are your plans?
I thought we'd go to the theatre.
The theatre? Oh, what play do you want to see?
Oh, I thought we'd go to the Savoy Theatre and see the Sherlock Holmes play. I hear it's enormously successful.
Yes, I know it is, but I've avoided it. I'm told that Sir Claude Horton takes great liberties with your character, and as for the actor portraying me, my friends tell me it's a travesty. He makes me nothing but a bumbling old fool.
Therefore, a visit to the play might be a salutary experience for both of us. In any case, my trip to London is in response to an urgent telegram from Sir Claude himself. Seems to need my help rather badly.
Oh, what's his trouble?
Well, he wasn't specific in his telegram. He suggested, however, that we attend tonight's performance and discuss the matter with him afterwards.
I see. Well, I suppose if you can sit through it, I can.
Of course you can, old fellow. In any case, you yourself are prompt
directly responsible for the play's existence.
How do you mean, Holmes?
Those sensational stories you wrote of my modest problems, I should have seen where they would eventually lead to. In time, no doubt, this will be portrayed on the cinematograph as well.
Nonsense, Holmes. That newfangled thing's only a toy.
I think not, Watson. We're on the edge of a strange new mechanical world. In fact, I begin to feel a certain concern about the rumored developments in wireless telegraphy. But enough of these predictions. Here comes our porter with a cab. We'll tell the driver to take us straight to the Savoy Theatre.
Just look at that line of people at the box office, Holmes.
Very flattering, old chap.
Well, possibly, but I hope it doesn't mean that we've got to wait our turn and...
Excuse me, gentlemen. You're Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, aren't you?
Yes.
I thought I couldn't be mistaken. My name is Frank Ferrer.
How do you do, Mr. Ferrer?
I'm glad to meet you, sir.
The Claude has a box reserved for you. He asked me to see that you're quite comfortable.
Consider it of him.
Will you follow me, please?
Thank you.
Neither of you has seen the play before, I understand.
No, Mr. Ferrers, we haven't.
I imagine it'll be a strange experience seeing yourselves portrayed on the stage. By the way, I'm playing the part of an old friend of yours, Professor Moriarty.
Oh, indeed. I'm looking forward to a very entertaining evening. I presume that you escape our clutches, as usual?
Yes, I do, Mr. Holmes. And I've done it nightly now for 137 performances.
A record that I'm sure Professor Moriarty himself would envy. Had it not been for his memorable demise at the Rackenback Falls.
Ah, here we are, gentlemen. This is the box reserved for you. And now, if you'll excuse me, I'll go back to my dressing room. Oh, I nearly forgot, Mr. Holmes. Sir Claude asked me to give you this note.
Thank you.
Oh, not at all. Well, I'll see you later.
Very nice fellow for an actor.
Don't be a snob, Watson.
Well, what does the Claude note say?
I'll read it to you. Dear Holmes, since I telegraphed you yesterday, there have been strange developments. In fact, I've been doing some detective work off stage as well as on. Watch the performance tonight and watch the audience, too, particularly the occupant of the box opposite yours. Please come to my dressing room as soon as the last curtain has fallen.
He's being very mysterious, and the box opposite ours is empty.
No. Look, Watson, look. Someone has just entered. Confound it, the house lights are going out.
The first act's beginning, Holmes.
The first act? Yes. Well, sit back and relax, old fellow. Let's see what they've done to us.
Well, what did you think of the first act, Holmes?
Huh? Oh, the first act, yes. I was, examining the occupant of the box opposite ours. An attractive young lady, alone and unusually preoccupied in her program. In fact, one might assume that she was trying to hide her face.
Yes, but the play, don't you think it's ridiculous? Just imagine a crown jewel being stolen from the Tower of London.
Why not? It's been attempted many times.
Anyhow, you must admit that the actor who's portraying me behaves like a blithering idiot. And Sir Claude's interpretation of you is pretty far-fetched.
Far-fetched, but flattering, Watson. Poise, what suavity, and what a voice. I find myself thoroughly entertained.
You're a strange chap, Holmes. No accounting for your tastes.
Look, Watson, look. The back of the box over there.
Good Lord, I could have sworn a man dodged behind the curtain. I don't think the girl saw him, though.
Looks like a foreigner. I think as the young lady's alone, we'll take the liberty of joining her.
Oh, dash it, there go the lights again. The second act starting now.
And sit down, old fellow. We don't want to attract attention. We'll join her during the next intermission.
Yes, who is it? Who are you? What do you want with me?
My name is Sherlock Holmes, and this is my colleague, Dr. Watson.
How do you do, young lady?
I hope you'll forgive this intrusion, but Sir Claude requested that I keep an eye on you during the play tonight.
Please come in and sit down, won't you?
Thank you.
Oh, this is very kind of you.
You must forgive my abruptness just now. But I've just been watching Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson being impersonated on the stage. It's rather startling to have the real couple walk into my box.
Yes, I quite understand. By the way, just before the curtain went up on the second act, I thought I noticed a man come into the back of this box and then disappear again. Were you aware of his presence?
No, I didn't see him. But I know who it is. been following me for weeks now.
Perhaps you'd like to tell us about it, Miss...
Henshaw. Alicia Henshaw. Yes, I would. As a matter of fact, that's why I'm here tonight. Sir Claude Horton's an old friend of my father's. I went to ask his advice. He did some investigating himself for a few days, and then he found himself a little out of his depth, so he decided to telegraph for you, Mr. Holmes. We were going to meet in his dressing room after the performance tonight.
Splendid. And now, Miss Henshaw, what is your story?
It's a strange one, Mr. Holmes, though I didn't realize just how strange until I first saw this play a few nights ago. You see, my story concerns a stolen ruby.
Good Lord, and tonight's play revolves around the same thing.
Exactly. I might as well tell you how it all started. My brother is an officer in the British Army stationed in Egypt. Early this year, he saved the life of a very important native personage in some uprising in Cairo and was rewarded with a magnificent ruby. This jewel he sent to my Uncle Timothy and me. Oh, we're the last of the Henshaws, you see.
Did your brother tell you the name of this personage?
He didn't know it, Mr. Holmes. Apparently, the whole affair was hushed up.
I see. Please continue.
Well, the trouble began shortly after Uncle Timothy and I received the ruby. A description of it was published in the papers, and a few days later a message came to us from an Egyptian, Muhammad Ali, laying claim to the stone as one stolen from his family years ago. He sent an expert to our house who examined the ruby under a lens, Mr. Holmes, and then tapped it with a hammer. It fell to pieces. It was a fraud.
Oh, gracious me, an amazing thing.
I'm sure that's not the end of the story, Miss Henshaw.
Oh, no, Mr. Holmes. I wrote and told my brother what had happened. He became very suspicious and suggested that I investigate the credentials of the expert that examined the stone.
I think I can finish the story for you. The supposed expert was a jewel thief who substituted a paste ruby for the real one, destroyed the imitation, and walked off with the treasure. It's an old trick. Of course, you haven't been able to find any trace of the supposed expert.
Well, that's the funny part of it, Mr. Holmes. Uncle Timothy and I gave a description to the police, but it was a very vague one, I'm afraid. All the time, Uncle said the man reminded him of a colleague of his many years ago at the university, a professor of mathematics. He couldn't think of his name, but when we first saw the play a few nights ago, he was reminded of it. The name was Moriarty.
Moriarty?
But Moriarty's dead.
Miss Henshaw, you say you have been shadowed for some weeks.
Yes, an Egyptian. He's stolen the ruby, Mr. Holmes. Why don't they leave me alone?
That, Miss Henshaw, represents a very fascinating problem, and one that I shall be most happy to help you solve.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr.
Oh,
Holmes.
there go the lights again. The last act.
Yes, the last act of this little play, but not, I fear, of Miss Henshaw's problems. Let's meet after the act in Sir Claude's dressing room, shall we?
Well, Holmes, how did you enjoy the play?
Very much, Sir Claude. May I introduce my old friend, Dr. Watson?
How do you do, Sir Claude?
How are you, Doctor? I see you've already made the acquaintance of Miss Henshaw. She, no doubt, has told you her troubles, eh?
Yes, Sir Claude. And Mr. Holmes has promised to help me.
Splendid. Tell me, Watson, how did you like the play?
It was very interesting, Sir Claude. Not quite accurate, of course.
Well, you have to allow us a little dramatic license, you know. What did you think of Rodney, the man who was portraying you, Doctor?
Well, since you mention it, I think the fellow needs to study diction. He mumbles so much I couldn't understand a word he said.
Oh, come now, old fellow. I think there are times when you're a little hard to understand yourself.
Oh, rubbish.
Sir Claude, I hope you'll meet us at the Diogenes Club, and then we can go out and have some supper.
Excellent idea. I'll join you there after I've taken off my makeup.
Splendid.
I think I should be going home now, Sir Claude. I gave my address to Mr. Holmes so he knows where to get in touch with me.
Very well, Miss Henshaw, and don't worry. I shall give your problem my undivided attention.
I'll take you to your cab, my dear.
Oh, there's no need to, Sir Claude.
Nonsense, I insist.
Goodbye.
I'll be back in a moment.
Right, Miss Henshaw?
Good night, good night. Strange business, Holmes. What do you make of it all?
Very little as yet, but it's a fascinating problem.
Sir Claude really seems to have identified himself with the character of Sherlock Holmes. He gave me the impression that he feels quite capable of solving the case by himself.
Hello. Claude hasn't left, has he?
Oh, no, Mr. Ferris. He's coming back in a moment.
How'd you like the play, gentlemen?
Very much. Your own performance as Moriarty was most convincing.
Yes, indeed, sir. Congratulations. A couple of times there, I had a strange feeling that you really were Moriarty.
Well, that's very flattering, Doctor. Oh, hello. Well, it sounds as if there's some trouble at the stage door. Excuse me.
Come on, Watson, let's follow him.
Right. Hello, Sir Claude. He seems upset about something.
Yes. What's happened, Sir Claude?
Oh, there you are, Holmes.
I'd just seen Miss Hanshaw off in her cab when a foreign-looking fellow came out of a doorway and got into another cab. I heard him tell the driver to follow her. I tried to stop him, but he got away.
Must be the same man that we saw in her box during the play.
Sir Claude, we have her address. I think we'll drive there at once and see that she's arrived safely. We'll join you later at the Diogenes Club.
Well, Holmes, here we go. Off on another adventure.
Yes, and one that may give us an opportunity of crossing swords with Moriarty once more.
Oh, Moriarty's dead. He was killed when you and he fell over the precipice in 91.
He was supposed to have been killed, just as I was, but his body was never found. It's impossible, or rather possible, that he returned to pour into the ears of Colonel Moran a story as unlikely and as true as the one I related to you on that April evening in 1894. One can never be sure of death, old chap, until one has touched the cold skin of a corpse.
Dr. Watson's story will continue in just a few seconds. Hardly time for me to tell you about a really great Petri wine. Petri California Muscatel. Did you ever walk through a vineyard early in the morning and pick a big, juicy muscat grape right off the vine? If you've ever done that, then you know what to expect when you taste Petri Muscatel. Petri Muscatel is the color of golden sunshine with a flavor to match. Serve Petri Muscatel after dinner some evening, or serve it any time friends drop in. It's a wonderful way to express your hospitality with a wonderful wine, a Petri wine. And now back to tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure. The famous pair have become involved in a strange mystery concerning a stolen ruby, a frightened girl, and an Egyptian who appears to be shadowing her. As we rejoin our story, Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson are standing in a darkened alleyway adjoining the girl's house.
Holmes, look. That Egyptian fellow. He's pacing up and down in front of the house.
Yes, therefore we may assume she's safely inside. Seems to be giving up.
He's coming this way.
Flatten yourself against the wall. Greeting, sir.
Good evening. Who are you, please?
We are friends of Miss Hanshaw, and we're very curious to know why you've been following her.
I'm sorry that I cannot answer your question, sir.
Now, look here, my man. You're talking to Sherlock Holmes.
You are Mr. Sherlock Holmes? I'm greatly honored to meet you, sir. All my life I have known of you. All my life I have admired you.
Then in that case, perhaps you'll answer my questions. Why have you been following Miss Hanshaw?
Because it is my duty.
What do you mean, your duty?
Perhaps I should have said my destiny, Mr. Holmes. For 2 generations now, the family of Arabi, of which I am a humble member, have dedicated their lives to finding the stolen treasure of Asyut.
What on earth's all that got to do with Miss Hanshaw?
The treasure of Asyut is a giant ruby. It was stolen many years ago from the family of Muhammad Ali. A few months ago, Miss Hanshaw received a mysterious ruby. I have found out many things, Mr. Holmes. I have many sources of information.
Then I must regard you in the light of a rival detective in this case.
I hardly call myself a detective, Mr. Holmes. My life is dedicated to only one problem. Miss Hanshaw now says the jewel was stolen from her. I do not believe it. That is why I watch her. If I am wrong this time, and I do not think I am wrong, then my quest must go on. Always it will go on.
Permit me to wish you the best luck, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
Sure we shall meet again.
Oh, why did you let him go, Holmes?
Why not?
He's frightening Miss Hanshaw.
But not molesting her, old chap. In fact, it might be a good thing if someone is keeping an eye on her. Meanwhile, Watson, let's see if we can find a cab and get back to the Diogenes Club. I don't want to keep Claude waiting. Has Claude Horton arrived yet?
Yes, Mr. Holmes. He and another gentleman came in about 5 minutes ago. They went up to the library. The other gentleman has just left.
I see. Thank you. This way, Watson. I'm sorry, Sir Claude. We've kept you waiting. We took a little longer, but... Sir Claude!
Great heaven. What's the matter with him?
Holmes. I found the answer. Too late. It's...
No, sir. Don't try and stand up. You're ill.
What are you trying to tell me?
The ruby. Moriarty. The answer. The answer's in the book. In the book.
Sir Claude! Holmes! He's been stabbed. He's dead.
Just as he was trying to give me a message.
He was muttering something about the ruby and Moriarty. And twice he said, it's in the book.
Yes, there's a book still in his hand.
Copy of The Tales of Edgar Allan Poe.
His thumb's marking the page. The story of the Purloined Letter. Thank you, Sir Claude. You delivered your message. Come on, Watson. If we want to catch a murderer and a thief, we must go back to the Savoy as quickly as we can.
Why do you suppose Sir Claude was murdered?
Because he was too curious. He's been investigating the problem of the stolen ruby and found out something. Something he promised to tell me at supper, you remember? And so he was killed by a man who came with him to the club tonight. Fortunately, he gave me a clue by indicating Poe's story of the Purloined Letter.
But I still don't see how that helps you.
Well, it leads us to the ruby. The premise of Poe's story is that the most obvious hiding place is the safest. Now, what physical object was most prominent on the stage in tonight's play?
By Jove. A ruby.
Exactly. How better can you hide a stolen ruby than by exhibiting it night after night as a stolen ruby before the eyes of thousands?
Well, you mean you expect to find it in the property room backstage?
Precisely. That and a murderer. Wait for us, Kitty. Come on, Watson. You have your revolver, old chap?
Yes, I do.
Well, keep it handy. Our visit may not be unexpected. Unlocked. That's good. Come on.
Look, Holmes, look. The doorkeeper. He's slumped over his desk.
He's been getting chloroform. We'll take the liberty of borrowing his lantern.
The eerie atmosphere about a dark and empty theatre in the home.
Now, where would the stage properties be kept, I wonder? Hold the lantern a little higher, will you, old fellow?
Yeah.
That's it. Ah, look over there.
A large cabinet. It's marked Property Department.
And it's unlocked. Oh, this is frighteningly easy. Just look out for a trap. Now, let's see.
Look. There's a ruby. Lying on that tray.
Hold it up under the lantern, Watson. Exactly. It's as I thought. This is no paste stage property. It's a genuine ruby. In the light of this lantern, it's very hard to... Down, Watson, quick!
He nearly got us. Smashed our lantern.
Yes, he's got an air rifle, a powerful one, too, compact. There's no flash to indicate where he's firing from. Of course, he's baited his trap so neatly that he knows exactly where we are.
I'm going to take a shot at him. I can't see anything, but at least it'll let him know we're armed.
Now, move your position quickly, Watson.
Just missed me, Holmes. This is hopeless shooting in the dark.
Yes. I've got to switch the stage lights on. Keep him off your head, old fellow, will you? While I try to find the light switches.
I've got him. But he still shoot, confound it.
Yes, well, I found the light switch. Keep your eyes skinned, Watson. I'm turning it off.
There he is, Holmes. Up in that box.
Getting away. After him, Watson. You can jump over the footlights into the box. I'm afraid the bird has flown, Watson. I should have remembered the theatre exit door is always open from the inside.
No, he didn't get away, Holmes. Look on the floor. It's that Egyptian fellow.
I hope you haven't wounded him too badly, old
I don't
chap.
care if I have. He was trying to kill us. No, it's only a shoulder wound. He's fainted, infernal scoundrel.
No, he's a very gallant man. Undoubtedly, he was trying to save us as you shot him just now.
Holmes, what on earth are you talking about? Obviously, Moriarty.
No, Watson, Moriarty just escaped through the door you heard clang a few moments ago.
And what's this man doing here?
As a fellow detective, undoubtedly he followed us. Perhaps he preceded us. When Moriarty started shooting, this man tried to capture him and got wounded by you frames.
Then who is Moriarty? He must be someone connected with this theater.
It's obvious. Moriarty is Moriarty.
What? You mean Frank Ferrers, the fellow that played the part on the stage?
Again, remember Poe's story of the Purloined Letter.
But why didn't you recognize him?
Oh, remember, I haven't seen him for 20 years, and you haven't forgotten his genius for disguise, have you?
What incredible audacity.
How better could Moriarty conceal himself than by announcing nightly to the theatre-going public that he was Professor Moriarty?
Then he killed Sir Claude.
Of course he did. Claude must have persuaded Moriarty to go to the club with him. Probably he hoped to expose him in front of me, but Moriarty found out that Sir Claude knew too much. Yes, so he stabbed him. Rushed back here to bait his trap for us.
Yes, but how did he know that we'd walk into it?
Well, he knew that if Sir Claude had guessed his secret, then I certainly would, and so he was waiting for us.
Hello? It's coming through. How are you feeling, my man?
The ruby. The ruby. Find the ruby.
Yes. Here it is, sir. Tell me. Is it the ruby of Muhammad Ali?
No. It is a fine stone, but it is not the one for which I have searched all my life. So my endless quest must go on and on.
He's fainted again.
Good. Oh. And miss, I made of this case, Watson.
Oh, I don't know. You recovered the ruby?
Yes, look at it, old fellow. Before I turn it over to Miss Hanshaw, look at it well. Probably its every facet stands for a bloody deed.
It's a beautiful stone.
And yet this lovely bauble costs a Claudy's life.
And that devil Moriarty still goes free.
But one day, Watson, and may the day come soon, I shall meet Moriarty again. And when that happens and I finally bring him to justice, then and only then can you write fini to the character of Sherlock Holmes.
Well, Doctor, that was kind of an exciting story. Tell me, did the Egyptian recover from his bullet wound?
Yes, indeed he did, and rather quickly, too, Mr. Foreman. I felt very badly about shooting him, but of course, I couldn't help it.
Of course not.
But, you know, if I had to shoot someone accidentally, I wish it could have been the actor who portrayed me on the stage. Wretched fellow mumbled all over the place.
Oh, don't worry about that. After all, you did recover the ruby.
Yes, and a beautiful stone it was. The color of, the color of fine glass of port, when the light shines through it.
By a fine port, I take it you're talking about a Petri port?
Is there any other kind?
Well, all kidding aside, Doctor, Petri port, like all Petri wines, is good wine. And I can tell you why very simply. Petri took time to bring you good wine. You see, the Petri family has been making wine for a good many generations, since way back in the 1800s. And because the Petri business has always been family-owned, everything the family has ever learned about the art of making wine, they've been able to hand down from father to son. From father to son. That adds up to a lot of skill and a lot of experience when it comes to turning plump, juice-filled California grapes into clear, fragrant, delicious wine. So when you want a wine for any occasion, obviously you can't go wrong with a Petri wine, because Petri took time to bring you good wine. And now, Dr. Watson, what story do you have lined up for us next week?
Now, let me see. Next week, Mr. Foreman, I'm going to tell you a most unusual adventure that occurred to Sherlock Holmes and me early in the last World War. It took place in Flanders and concerned a famous British general, an actress, and a German firing squad.
Boy, that sounds like a real thriller. Well, see you here next week.
No. Not here, Mr. Foreman, remember?
Oh, of course. Next week, we're going to be at the Paramount Theater in Hollywood for the 7th War Loan Drive.
That's quite right. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't invite you all to my home for one of our broadcasts, but we can get together next week at the Paramount Theater in Hollywood. You can get a free ticket for our broadcast by buying a war bond. And I sincerely hope that you will do this, so that we can see you next week at this time.
Tonight's Sherlock Holmes adventure is written by Dennis Green and Anthony Boucher and is based on an incident in the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle story, The Adventure of the Second Stain. Mr. Rathbone appears to the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and Mr. Bruce to the courtesy of Universal Pictures, where they are now starring in the Sherlock Holmes series. The Petri Wine Company of San Francisco, California, invites you to tune in again next week, same time, same station.
Oh, the Petri family took the time to bring you such good wine. So when you eat and when you cook, remember Petri wine.
To make good food taste better, remember...
Petri.
Bill Foreman saying goodnight for the Petri family. Sherlock Holmes comes to you from our Hollywood studios. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Okay, folks, I hope you enjoyed that episode, and now it's time for the highs and lows in our discussion. But first, let me introduce my special guests. With me, as always, is the Mycraft in my Sherlock. It is my older, wiser brother. It is Jason the Weasel Skull Alberich. Welcome back to 221B, Jason.
It's been good being here. I really enjoy it. We have a good time.
The best part about that is we're on video chat, and I saw Pat get mad because I know he was about to do the same bit.
I'm very happy to be here.
Good. Well, Pat, he stole your bit, but hey, it is the Watson to my Sherlock. Pat Sampson, DJ Kristatos, welcome back to 221B. Oh,
I'm really mad, because there's a guy that's coming on the show named Pat, and he's impersonating DJ Kristatos, and I don't think he does a great job at it. He's really good at it.
Understood. And we have a special guest with us all the way from his podcast, Fave 5 from Fans. Starting to get it roll off the tongue now. It is our good friend for the first time at 221B. It is Mr. Jamie Ray. Welcome to 221B, Jamie.
That Petri wine is so good.
Once it hits your lips,
golden sunshine.
That's what Pat said. We gave Pat a bottle early on, and I mean, there's been some meetings, some 12-step programs that it led to, but it is delicious.
And you know what? You put it over ice. Oh man!
And it's like Dr. Watson says.
Everybody's got a Watson rip tonight. Well, yeah, that's our crew for tonight. It is Jason, Pat, and Jamie from the Fave 5 from Fans podcast, and Rom Pals. If you love the Space Knight Rom, Jamie's a good person to talk to, and we'll tell you how to get in touch with him and everybody else at the end of the show. But for now, we've got to talk about this episode, Purloined Ruby, Sherlock Holmes. Let's get it going. In our first round, Jamie, what we typically do is we let our guest kick us off with either a high or a low, or maybe a your initial thought on this, something that you liked, maybe something you didn't like. Are you going to go high or low with us on this first round?
I'm going to kind of go with the low on this one. I know. I mean, I love the series. I've listened to them for a very long time, and not to once we get into it, but pretty much figured out right away who the villain was. Kind of ruined it for me a little bit, but I would definitely say someone else would probably enjoy it as more than I did.
Okay. I think that's fair because I listened to it for the first time myself a couple of months ago, probably. And I remember as a first-time listener being like, I wonder if Moriarty has disguised himself as Moriarty. And spoiler alert, well, it's not a spoiler, you just listen to it. That's what ended up happening. So I wasn't like bummed by that. I was like, oh, okay, that's what it was. But I think maybe we did see it coming a little too much. I don't know. I'm glad you made that your round one, because as we go around round one, I kind of want everybody to give their thoughts on that and then whatever else their round one thoughts are. So let's go to Jason and your thoughts on like seeing it coming. Did you get duped? What are your thoughts on that? And then you can roll that into another high or low, whatever you want.
I saw that one coming like a fastball right down the heart of the plate. I mean, it was pretty obvious from the get-go. And I'm with Jamie. When you have a character like Moriarty, who is the Dr. Doom to Reed Richards, you need to really have a tight story that wows you. You have to have a good mystery, and this one just was not worthy of the character of Professor Moriarty. I will lead that into my what the. Can somebody explain to me the ruby? Because I thought the ruby was the real ruby from Egypt, but then maybe it wasn't because the Egyptian guy had to continue on his quest. If it wasn't the real ruby, what ruby was it?
Okay, I can help you because I listened multiple times. It was a real ruby, but it wasn't that specific one he was looking for. So we went from they're using this ruby in this play and everybody thinks it's fake, but he's hiding it in plain sight. It was a stolen ruby, but it wasn't that very specific one that dude was looking for.
So he didn't steal it from the woman.
I think he did steal it, but I don't think the one that she had was the one the Egyptian guy was looking for.
Okay. I was so confused.
Yeah. Too much Ruby movement. I understand. Because, like I said, I had to listen to it a couple times to make sure I sort out the details. I do that a lot on the show. I listen to it, and then I select it as an episode, and then I listen to it again because I always know there's going to be questions. And I'm like, I got to stay on top of this. So I really listened the second time. I was like, okay, the root, because I had that same question when I listened to it once. I was like, okay, it was like a show game of rubies. I had to follow that dang thing. Pat, first, your thought on the Moriarty reveal. I'm not picking on you. You're admittedly the most easily dupable Sherlock Holmes person on the show. You get duped by Holmes. I'm not picking on him, Jamie. He's professional.
I do. And I think we're going to start a new segment. It's called Duped or Not Duped.
Okay.
So for the bric-a-brac, I'll start off. Was I duped or not duped? I'm like Jamie. I wasn't duped. I kind of figured, hey, this Moriarty guy, what's going on? He seems kind of fishy. Maybe just because he got out of the falls or something out of the water, and you can just smell it on him.
The fish.
But
went literal.
Zing!
Yeah. But that wine's getting to me.
Hey, well, you went through the program, Pat. 12 steps.
Yeah. Yep.
He needs 24.
So I guess that answers your question of whether I was duped or not on that. Did I like the story? It's weird because I was expecting an ending. I'm like, okay, what are they going to catch him, or at least, hey, we got him, and then he runs away. Well, he kind of runs away, but they didn't really get him, and so I guess I was duped on who they shot. That duped me a
Watson
little bit.
shot that guy by accident.
Yeah.
Watson just blasting his 9 all over the place.
Watson shot that like Egyptian investigator guy.
It's dark. I'm going to shoot.
And then he was like, "Oh, my bad."
Oh, it was all right. Just put a bit better on it.
Oh, boy, I'm still with the gun. Drop shot.
But I have some good things to say about it in the second round.
Fair enough. And we're going to get our second round started, but I had to really laugh at the inside joke where Watson was critiquing the guy who played Watson. He was like, he mumbles his lines.
Yeah.
How great was that?
Then the guy comes back. Well, mister, you kind of do the same thing. What are you talking about?
Okay, it's time for round 2. Jamie, what do you got?
Well, again, not knowing a lot, but one of the things I have to say about this is if we notice, this episode came out May 7th, 1945, which all of our history buffs know was when the Nazis gave up unequivocal surrender. So right there, I mean, that's just an auspicious day that just goes to show you. So for second round, I do want to say we're sitting here with this whole backstory and all this backlog of all these episodes. But, sitting around and listening to it every, Thursday night when it was coming out, it might have been a while since we'd heard about Moriarty. I mean, in the story, he's been dead 5 years, supposedly. So maybe the 1945 audience was surprised because no one was expecting him to be there. So I don't want to judge it too harshly, but at the same time, I did love the interplay with, like you were saying, with Watson and his actor counterpart.
That is indeed quality stuff. Jason, what do you got for round 2?
I'll say as a high for a radio show, the tension of them going through that darkened theater looking for the jewel and other clues and then getting ambushed was very well done. I was, to quote Pat, on the seat of my seat listening to it play out over a radio broadcast. So we've mentioned this before, for just an audio medium, they do a really good job with the effects and the dialogue, and the actors really sell it. So hats off to a really tense and exciting scene that they pulled off, I thought.
Definitely would underscore that, Jason. I remember listening the first time and, feeling that tension through audio only. They're so good at that. They really are. So, maybe some ups and downs in this one, but their production quality, always good.
You can't beat those actors. I mean, they went on to portray them in Hollywood. That's the epitome of Holmes and Watson.
Oh, they're so good. They are so good. Pat, what do you got, buddy?
Well, just like in the beginning of this episode, Jason took my bit. He just took my other bit too that I was going to talk about was the production in this. We continue to say it. It is very good. Just the sound effects, the writing. This was, to me, a top-notch one, but just the story left me again hanging there. Oh, like, really? This is how you're ending it? No one's really getting caught or what's happening here? And, oh, well, maybe we'll see Moriarty again down the road. And what I did like, too, is I think Jamie may have mentioned it, was how they did do some callbacks to some other Holmes history, right? Coming back to that, like, oh, yeah, they both did fall. And I survived it, too, and I came out of it. And, well, the body was never found. Well, then how can you say he was dead in the first place, Holmes? Did you just say he was dead? I mean, now you got me questioning your smarts, Holmes. Well, if the body's not there, how do you know he died? You'd have to figure that out. With that, though, I still a good story. I like that they were kind of playing different things with the mystery that was going on. Why was this guy chasing them? Or I don't want to say chasing them, but kind of watching her and the other mysteries that were going on.
Yeah, I agree, Pat. I thought it was kind of fascinating that they brought back, as Jason said, Moriarty after all those years. They kind of reintroduced the character to the series. And I think that's why there was no catching them. I think they were definitely like, oh, we've got Moriarty back in the storyline. Yeah. So we're going to keep going with this. But I agree with your overall assessment. And that is our two official highs and lows. And we go into additional thoughts. And I saw Jamie come off mute as if he had something he wanted to toss in there. Jamie, did you have an additional thought?
Well, one of the things that maybe this story isn't an Arthur Conan Doyle story. This was written specifically for the teleplay for the show. So it's kind of hard, I would think. Edith Meiser's the one who wrote it for the show. I think she did a good job taking some of the elements to it, but you just didn't have the suspense. You really kind of felt like they were, I don't want to say bumbling by any means. Holmes knew that he was being set up for a trap, and yet he still went, and they still got shot at. And of course, the Moriarty wasn't as deadly with his aim as Watson was, but still, But I think maybe that had something to do with it. Plus, they had to tell the story in 30 minutes with commercials about Petri wine. So maybe that's what sort of leads to it not being as gripping as some of the other stories might have been. I
agree. They were cranking these out one a week, and she did a fine job with writing the story, but I think she treated it like it was every week's story. And to Jason's point, if you're going to bring back a villain the caliber of Moriarty, you need a little more polish on that. Again, it was fun. I get the feeling we all enjoyed it, and we're about to rate it here shortly. And you folks listening right now, you listen to it as well. So we're definitely going to hear your thoughts on that. We'll remind you how to do that in just a second. But any other additionals, gentlemen?
The only other thing I was thinking of is I liked the way that they used the purloined letter from Edgar Allan Poe as the indicator of where he should go to figure out where the ruby was and who was going on. I thought that was a cool touch.
And you just reminded me, they do this a lot on the show. At the end, they say, oh, this show is based on an incident, and they'll put a Doyle story out there. And I think on this one, they said it was like the second stain. And I swear they're just making that up. I'm like, how does this relate at all to the second stain? I think they're just making that up so it sounds legitimate sometimes. And I usually check in with Jason on that because Jason knows the literary Holmes better than most. I read them all, but I was about 13, and Jason, I think, has reread them over the years, so he's a little more polished on that. Jason, did you see any second stain references here? I couldn't find one.
I'll be honest with you. I don't remember the story of the second stain because I was wondering it myself, and if I had more time, I would have gone back and reread the story. I've done that before with the show, and I'm just like,
don't match that up, man.
Yeah, it's like they're just randomly opening a Sherlock Holmes compendium, and whatever story it falls on, it's like, it's
based on an idea from.
Or at the Speckled Band. I don't know.
All right. Well, as usual, we're not sure. If you're a listener out there and you know how it connects, Again, we're going to tell you how to get in touch with us in just a second. But first, we got to score this. And our scoring system here works on a scale of 1 to 5 pipes. If you give it 5 pipes, it means you loved it. 4 pipes means you thought it was very good. 3 pipes, it was just good. And 2 pipes, it's all right. 1 pipe, you hated it, and it threw you off Reichenbach Falls. So we will start with Jamie on a scale of 1 to 5. What are you feeling on this episode?
I definitely would give it a solid 3. It didn't, well, my God, that was so awesome. But at the same time, it wasn't anything that those guys did. Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce, they could read the phone book and it would be a good episode. So I think a solid 3 pipes.
Triple A car care. That's Watson reading the phone book. Started right at the beginning.
Pick up the phone.
I got to say, I think they were sitting around one day and they said, hey, why don't we have the lady have a dog and we can say this is based on the Hounds of the Baskerville. No, just move on.
I think that is what they were doing. Jason, 1 to 5.
I'm with Jamie. I'm at a 3. I wanted to really be wowed by any story that has Professor James Moriarty returning, and I wasn't exactly wowed. We definitely have had better episodes that we've listened to. Having said all that, I'd still buy a war bond to go see him live.
I like that at the end. Yeah.
That was awesome.
Buy a war bond, you get a live ticket, man. I'm there, buddy. I'm there. Pat, 1 to 5 war bonds.
Like Jason said, that would be really cool to go see these guys do this thing live now that you listen to it. And man, I would love that. But I'm going to be at a 3 as well. It's an average one. Very good. I can't say anything super bad about it. I can't say anything overly good. It's an average show for, like you said, they were cranking these things out once a week. A live show once a week and cranking these things out the best that they could. So I wanted a little bit more, or even like a 2-parter maybe would have been kind of cool. But we got what we got, and Moriarty's back.
I think it's a very fair and good assessment, Pat. And I'm going to join you guys with a 3. And I think the real beauty of what we've got here on the radio show of this Rathbone Holmes era, because there are other eras of radio show that we may get to, by the way. But I think the beauty of this one is I just don't know we're going to ever have to go below a 3.
Yeah,
I feel like 3 is their standard. We might find one that's just an absolute turkey. I don't know.
But even that Christmas one wasn't bad.
Yeah, the Christmas one was silly, but it was fun silly. So yeah, it's always charming. It always has that charm. And so yeah, I'm going to join you on a 3. And I think I speak for all of us. And y'all pretty much said it. It's fine. It's a good 3. We look forward to some more of this stuff. And well, folks, that is it for this episode of LBC Irregulars, a Sherlock Holmes podcast. I want to thank my guests and see where they can be found on the internet. And we'll start with you, Jason.
You can find me at Jason Alberich on Instagram.
Well, Jarrod, I'm glad you asked. You can find me on the Twitter at Kristatos01.
Jamie, let the folks know where they can find you out there if they want to hear more of your dulcet tones.
Why, thank you. You can find me at Twitter at fave5 from fans. We've also got I am Jamie Ray at Twitter and the Rom Pals at Twitter. I'm on the Facebook, and as the kids say, we're on the gram. And you can hear our show every other week. And we also do another show called Complete Disarray with Jamie Ray that is streaming everywhere that these things stream.
Awesome. You heard it there, folks. Go check out Jamie's stuff. He's a nice guy and a solid podcaster. And of course, I am at Yard Sale Artist, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. It's all at Yard Sale Artist. You can check out my artwork at www.theyardsaleartist.com, which does include Sherlock Holmes sketches of Bruce and Rathbone. So I got bills to pay. And remember, if you want to get in on this conversation, we'd love it if you leave us a voicemail with your thoughts at 707-532-5269. That's 707-532-LBOX. Pick up the phone. One shot. Or you can comment on the show at LONGBOX CRUSADE. It's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. It's all at LONGBOX CRUSADE. We're in lots of places. You can send emails to contact@longboxcrusade.com. We will be happy to read your comments on the show. Thanks for joining us. And as a reminder, we couldn't do this show and all the shows on the Longbox Crusade Network without the support of our Crusaders Club members over on Patreon. And if you'd like to join their ranks for as little as $1 a month, that's right, we're grandfathered in. Patreon's new minimum is $3, but you can join ours for $1. Just go to www.patreon.com/longboxcrusade. And we'll now thank our Crusaders Club members as we ride off in our handsome cab. I'm your host, Jarrod Alberich, the Yard Sale Artist, and I look forward to joining you on the next episode.
And Helica Wolf.
Auburn Elvis.
Bill Beer.
Blast it or stash it.
Braxton Underwood.
Captain Entropy.
Clinton Robinson.
Dave Collins. Battle Wagon.
Ezra Gallo.
Gary Viola.
Gene Hendricks.
Gerald Green.
Jason Keene.
Jason Lady.
Jeremy L.
Jim Jarman. I hope you like Jim Jarman too.
Jim Meal.
Joe Thomas.
John Dr. Watson.
Josh Strickland.
Candace Ward.
Kathy Bright, MVP.
Mark Ross, a.k.a. Cluck Trent.
Matt and Lissy Poiso.
Maxwell Traver.
Miranda W.
Pimp Daddy Devins.
Paul Hicks.
Rick from Jeff and Rick Present.
Rob Morgan.
Samantha Maney.
Sean Urbanski.
Spidey 67.
Spreadsheet.
Steve Cronin.
Tim Price.
Tony Pennington.
And Toronto Cop.